Hey, good morning. So here's just a quick little video regarding what you're doing today, which is Tuesday, October 11th, and tomorrow, which is Wednesday, October the 12th. So again, by now you would have realized or have been reminded that I'll be away this week as I take my parental leave. The supply teacher will repeat the following instructions to you. I just decided to post this under news as well, so you can refer to it. Okay, this is again under D2L. So this will be on the course homepage. So what are you doing today or this week? So Tuesday and Wednesday, your unit, you will be working on an assignment. First off, your Unit 2 tests have been marked. They'll be returned to you when I get back. Please check D2L for your mark. For those that have not written the test yet, please see the supply teacher. She has copies for you to complete in the resource room. During these 2 days, you'll be working on, the majority of you will be working on the Unit 2 assignment in partners. So before those 3 students who still need to write the test, before the 3 of you head to the resource room, let's figure out partners first, okay? So students must work in pairs that they can choose their own partners. Since we have 19 students enrolled in the course, 1 student can choose to work alone. Vaughn is the only one that can't work alone because she worked alone for the first assignment. Now, of course, since you're watching this video, you have already clicked this link for a video regarding the first 2 days. So for the assignment, I'm just going to open it up. Now, like I said, the assignment is harder than the test, okay? But the questions aren't completely out of reach. These are thinking questions, and a couple of these may have, or if our tests contain the 4 categories, knowledge, application, thinking, and communication, there could have been a couple questions from here that showed up on the test. But of course, all our thinking questions are now in the assignments as opposed to the test. So these are typically the hardest questions on a test. So for the first question, not going to tell you how to solve them. I'm going to give you hints. For question number 1, for the following function, you know it's a degree 6, which means you can have up to 6 roots. You are just going to do the same thing. You are going to state all the possible factors of the polynomial of just this first initial degree 6 function. Okay, so factors of 9 divided by factors of 2. Okay, that's it. You don't need to do it for the other functions that you'll be dividing. Now, seeing as this is a degree 6 and you need to fully factor the function, after you find the first factor that works, you're going to end up with probably a degree 5, which means you have to do it again. After that, you're going to end up with a degree 4, which means you got to do it again. And after that, you end up with a degree 3, which means you got to do it one last time, and then you'll be able to sketch it. Okay. For this assignment, you will be given 2 days to do it. Obviously, you can take it home to work on it as well. Okay. Question number. So that was the one application question. That's it. So you can see it's worth 9 marks. That is it. Now, thinking questions. So the application question isn't hard, just tedious. Now, because this is an assignment, you can use whatever you want. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Meaning that for the first factor, if you're really stuck in finding a factor that works, you could use some kind of graphing software to find the first factor that you know would work. Okay. First thinking question, all you need to do is come up with, just use long division, okay, and that's it. Just divide it once, that's it. You don't need, it doesn't say fully factor. All you need to do is divide the numerator, which is degree 3, by the denominator. The hint I'll give you is this: when you're dividing this, make sure that you have everything in order. So you can see that this degree 3 is at the end, which should be followed by degree 2, but you notice there's no degree 2 here. So what should you do in order to make sure there is a degree 2? And then, of course, make sure you put it in order, divide it once, and write a division statement. Okay. Judging by what I saw in the test, a few of you forgot what a division statement was, which is okay. This is what a division statement is. So let's say I were to divide these two, okay? And I'm not obviously not going to do it, but let's say I have some function here, okay? So some function fx, I'm dividing it by x minus 2, and the answer I get is x squared plus 2x plus 1, and blah, 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 blah. I get a remainder of 3. My division statement would be fx is equal to my quotient, or let's put my factor in first. So x minus 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 1, and then plus the remainder of 3. Done. Okay? Again, divide it once. Question 2 for thinking inquiry. This one is going to be a little bit trickier. Determine the solutions that satisfy both of these inequalities. So in other words, your job is to solve both of these inequalities separately. Okay, so solve this first. Find out what the answer is for this inequality first. So again, you factor it with the PQ method. But there may or may not be some common factoring in this first equation. Find all the roots, draw a sketch, find out when it's below 0. Then, for the second equation, do the same thing. Again, factor, do a sketch, find out when it's below 0. Once you get the answers for both of them, look at those answers and see if there's any overlap. The overlap that satisfies both will be the solutions that satisfy both of these equations. Okay? So, again, I'm going to make up an answer. So let's say I solve this one and I get x minus 1, x plus 2, x minus 3, less than or equal to 0. And then over here I get, I don't know, x plus 1, x minus 2 squared less than 0. So if I were to sketch these, I would get, let's see, negative 2 as one of my roots, positive 1 and positive 3. So if I wanted to sketch this, I can see that this is a degree 4 because 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4, and leading coefficient is positive, which means it's going from here to here. So if I draw the sketch, let's see what happens. So I know at negative 2 I bounce, at 1 I'll cross, at 3 I'll also cross. So I know that my answers here are going to be, since I want it to be less than or equal to 0, only this section here, right? Which means x is strictly between 1 and 3. Now, for this answer over here, again, this is not the answer to the question. This is just me giving you an example. So I know I have a root at negative 1, I have a root at 2. I know this is a degree 3 function, again, with a positive leading coefficient. So from here to here, so I'm going to go through negative 1, bounce at 2, and come up. Okay? So which means my answer here would be it needs to be less than 0. So it's just going to be this section here. X must be less than negative 1. So this was a bad example because I look at these two answers and they do not overlap. So technically, if this happens, then there is no solution. Okay? There is no solution because neither that, I can't find a number that's between 1 and 3, but at the same time less than negative 1. That doesn't make sense. So there is no solution. But let's say, arbitrarily, I'm just going to change this sign, okay, and make this greater than 0. If this was the question, then, let me just change this color. Then the section that's bigger than 0 would be this, right? Which means x must be greater than negative 1. Now I look at this answer and this answer. What numbers would be both between 1 and 3 and bigger than negative 1? Well, therefore, the overlap would be, therefore the answer is, therefore the solution is x is between 1 and 3. Because if x is between 1 and 3, it is still already bigger than negative 1. So this would be the solution that satisfies both this inequality and that. Okay? Next question. This one's a little trickier. Actually, they're all tricky. So the polynomial fx, this big thing, has factors at x plus 2 and x minus 3. What are the possible values of a and b? Factor theorem. So this one is saying that if I sub in x equals to negative 2, in other words, replace all the x values with negative 2. So I've got a negative 2 cubed plus a plus 2b. Again, x becomes negative 2 plus b minus 3a. X again is negative 2 plus 8 minus a. All this, because this is a factor, based on the factor theorem, I'm just going to draw arrows to show that I'm just copying this down. All this should equal to 0. Okay. Now, looking at this equation, what do we notice? Well, we notice that there are two variables, a and b. So with one equation and two variables, is it possible to solve for either one? No, which probably means I need another equation, which I have. Because if I sub in 3 as well, so again, replace x with 3, plus a plus 2b, 3 squared plus b minus 3a times 3 plus 8 minus a. I have another equation here, because again, all this would equal to 0, right? Now I have two equations with two unknowns. How do I solve for a and b? You might need to use skills from grade 10, something called substitution or elimination, to find a and b. Okay, that's your hint for number 3. Number 4, prove that this does not intersect with that. Okay, so our job is to prove that these two do not intersect. There's a couple ways to do this, but the easiest way would simply set them equal to each other. Okay, so you've set them equal to each other, rearrange, so x4 plus 3x squared plus 2x, and then minus 2x, and then plus 1. I just moved these two over here. Try to factor this and show me that you're unable to factor it, because if you can't factor it, that means there's no solution. If there's no solution, then that proves that these two will never intersect. They will never cross. The other option is you can graph both of these and show that they will never ever touch. And the last question or second last? Last question. The volume of a box can be represented by this function. Okay. The height of the box is x plus 2. If the area of the base is 24, determine the height of the box. So I can't give you too many hints for this one, short of giving away the answer. What I will tell you is the volume of any box, in fact, the volume of any prism, is just the area of the base times height. Okay? It's the exact same formula as the one I have here. Length times width times height. So the volume of any box is length times width times height, or area of the base times the height. Because if you think about it, well, what is the base? The base is a rectangle, right? How do you find the area of a rectangle? Length times width. So the volume of this box is the area of the base, in other words, length times width times height. Now, what do they give us? They give us the height of the box, so we know the height of the box is x plus 2. What else do they give us? The area of the base, which is just 24. And we also know the volume, which is just that entire equation right there, x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6. Now our job then is to determine the value of the height of the box. So even though we know the height of the box is x plus 2, well, what's x? Is x 7, 8, 9, 10? So is the value of the height 10 plus 2, 8 plus 2, 9 plus 2, I don't know. So in other words, once I write out the volume, I need to find what x is. Because once I find what x is, I know what the value of the height is. Okay? So those are your hints. Now if I scroll down to the last page, this is how I'm going to give you your communication mark. So as you can see here, on the first assignment, why I can't remember why we didn't have time to give oral talks. Maybe because of the observation conversation conferences. But anyway, so with all assignments, I'm not going to necessarily have time, and I won't be able to pick every group for an oral presentation for the assignments. I will randomly pick. But for this one, since I'm not here, I will be using rubric 2. So for any assignment, I will either mark your communication based on rubric 1 or rubric 2. Rubric 1 will be if I happen to choose your group to give me an oral presentation of your work, then I'll use rubric 1. If I don't, then I'll mark it based on rubric 2. So rubric 2 is just math vocabulary and representation. So for a 9 to 10, I use correct math language. I can use multiple representations, pictures, numbers, symbols, charts, graphs, labeling, all that good stuff. Using a ruler to draw a line if you have to. Your sketches are nice and neat. I can see certain labels, so forth. Oral presentation, obviously this won't apply to this assignment because I'm not here for the week. But for future ones, that you can explain the work orally and your writing is clear. You have the correct answer, your explanation is able to apply some of the theorems. So for example, I use the factor theorem. That's why when I sub in x equals to -2, it gives me 0. Okay, so as always, if you do run into any problems and you need my help, just email me, jtram@scudsby.on.ca, okay? And I will try to respond as quickly as I can. Okay? All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.